Welcome back to Cooking Fun with Joanna. I am Joanna, the host, and my company is Nutrition in Motion, where I help athletes optimize their health and performance so that they love their body and love their life. And I think we're all a little bit athletes. But one of the things that we can do to help ourselves get nourished better is to put some fun into our cooking and make something new. So today we are making Peruvian style roast chicken and butternut squash mashed with sage. So what you'll need is obviously chicken. I have a package of three breasts, and we're gonna end up cutting those up. We'll need some olive oil, paprika, cumin, sea salt, black pepper. We're gonna chop up some garlic. We can use, it says white wine vinegar, but I've got apple cider vinegar, some onions, thick sliced.
Apple cider vinegar's in there.
Yeah, I put apple cider vinegar. I'm not going to use the white vinegar. And then with the butternut squash, it's going to be with onion, sage, and maybe a drizzle of maple syrup at the end. But what we're gonna do is, question is, what are we going to do? First, we're going to actually marinate the chicken. So we're similar to like last time. We're going to marinate a little bit. So, and then we're going to cook it in the same juices as well. But while we're playing with the butternut squash, we can at least let the chicken marinate. And I'm going to roll my sleeves up so that I don't get all messy. So we're going, and with cooking, I'm not a stickler with measuring. I think you've already realized that.
Really?
Yeah. So
I would have never known.
You know, that's why I like cooking, because you don't have to measure. You can guesstimate, and it's close enough. So I'm gonna use a bigger bowl this time so I can marinate all three chicken breasts instead of them being crowded like last time. I did learn something myself. I need a bigger bowl. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a tablespoon of ground cumin, and it could be a heaping tablespoon. And for posterity's sake, I'm actually gonna use a measuring spoon. So here's a tablespoon. And I'm having a hard time getting it out of the jar. It's not cooperating with me. So I have to keep flipping it end over end to get it all out. I happen to really like cumin. All right, close enough. There's a tablespoon of cumin. Then we're gonna do a tablespoon of the sweet paprika. And I think I'm gonna use the pour spout on this one so that I can pour it out a little bit easier. And you're gonna put that in your bowl. This is the part where my paprika is a little stiff. There's a lump in it, so I'm having challenges getting that to come out. Now we're going to put some of the sea salt in there, so that's going to be probably a half a teaspoon, because we can always add more salt later. Pardon me?
I was talking to Steve, sorry.
No, it's okay. Quite all right. I just thought that was the question, and I'm like, what?
Okay.
Then we're going to chop up the garlic and put that in here too, okay? So the paprika, cumin, sea salt, black pepper. We're going to put a tablespoon of black pepper in here too. And I think since I've got the pepper mill, I'm just going to crank it 7 or 8 times. And that should be enough. Because again, in baking or in cooking, you can guesstimate. It doesn't have to be exact. Approximate is better. You can always add pepper, but you can't take it out. And whenever my dad used to pepper his food, he would always sneeze shortly thereafter. So I'm hoping that you're not going to have that effect. Now we're going to take 5 garlic cloves. I have actually 5 small ones. And we're just gonna dice them up and then put that in here as well. And I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'm gonna move my bowl over a little bit and use my big butcher knife. And I'm gonna cut it in half and then just dice it up into smaller pieces. And this doesn't have to be an exact science. But the bigger the clove, you'll just make it into three rows and dice that. And then you're going to add that into the bowl. And if you have one more garlic, we're going to go ahead and chop that up too, because that's going to go into the in with the butternut squash. So if you want to just go ahead and get through all the garlic at one time, you can do that now, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to leave it on the side. We're going to put that in the bowl. Then I'm going to move the garlic over for the butternut squash because I don't need that right now. Then we're going to take a tablespoon of olive oil or 2 and put that in the bowl. And we're going to put a splash of that apple cider vinegar into it as well. Actually, a little bit more than a splash, so a tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar. And if you have a spoon or a fork, you can kind of mix it all together. And then we're going to go ahead and put the chicken into it, but I'm going to take a pair of scissors because I find that to be easier than washing the cutting board in between. So I'm just going to take some scissors and kind of cut these into 1/2-inch strips or 3/4-inch strips. And then put that into the bowl. And if you don't want to do it with scissors, then you can always cut it on the cutting board with a knife. So I'm using 3 chicken breasts. And I'm cutting that up into the bowl. I'm going to cut off the fat piece that I just came across. I don't mind having fat in my meal, but that stuff ends up being tough if it's the fatty chicken. So we're going to put that in here. One more slice for me, or one more cut. And then use that spoon to just mix everything so that everything is coated with the marinade. So it'll probably, and you want to try to grab it, mix it from underneath and turn it over. Mix it underneath and turn it over. Mix and turn over. You probably have to do it a dozen times to get all the pieces coated. And then we're gonna go ahead and wash our hands so that we don't have chicken on our hands while we cut because we're gonna go ahead and start working on the butternut squash. And so while this is marinating and kind of absorbing all the flavors, we're just gonna let that sit while we work on the butternut squash. So go ahead and move that butternut, or not the butternut squash, but move the chicken out of the way, wash your hands, because now we're going to go into using the butternut squash. So what you're gonna do first off is take that garlic that you had that chopped up and just throw that into a pot. And I want it to be like a medium large pot. So something about this size. So it's about a four quart or 5 quart pot. And I, over the weekend, did cut up some butternut squash so that I have it ready to go. But I'm going to show you how to work with the butternut squash so that it can be a lot easier. And the fresher the butternut squash, the easier it is. So I ended up cutting the top of the butternut squash and the bottom with a big butcher knife. And you really have to kind of like step over it and push down in order to cut it in half. Then I use the spoon to scoop out all the seeds and try to get all the hairy stuff out of it so it's pretty clean. Now the fun part is you're going to peel it with a potato peeler. So this part is actually pretty easy. And like I said, the fresher the butternut squash, I happen to get this from a lady at the aqua class whose husband has a huge garden. So the skin is coming off very easily. So you're just gonna hold on to that, keep peeling. And I'm gonna flip it around because I'm on the other end. But this makes it really easy to use the potato peeler to get the skin off. And you just put, medium pressure against the butternut squash, and the peel comes off. And so there is your my clean butternut squash. And I'm going to take that big butcher knife, and I'm basically going to make 1-inch layers. And again, you want to kind of lean into it with your shoulder and push down with both hands on both sides of that big butcher knife.
Do you want it to look like this?
I want it to look like that. Yeah, basically look like that.
Yeah, I cheated.
I cheated too, but I thought I'd demonstrate on video. So I'm gonna leave mine like that, and this is what yours is gonna look like. So I'm gonna just pour that into, whoops, and I just dropped one on the floor. But you're gonna put that into that pot. I'm gonna save the one that dropped on the floor, rinse it, even though I know my floors are clean. And then you're gonna put in about a 1/2 inch of water into the pot and turn it on. If you have the butternut squash that you still have to chop, you'll take 1 or 2 slices, kind of turn it on its side, and then chop. And you have to keep turning it because the butternut squash is arced. And then you have these basically 1-inch cubes. So that's what you're trying to do. If you want to avoid cutting, you buy it already cubed. And because I still have, I'm just going to go ahead and chop these up so that when I want to use them later this week, I can still use it. Do all the chopping now so we can have it for a different day. But you definitely, with the butternut squash, it's a little hard. So you have to kind of lean into it in order to cut it. And there's no shame in buying it already cut up. For what we're doing today, 1/2 of a butternut squash is enough, okay? And you can put some salt into the pot, turn it on at medium-high, and cover it. That's what we're gonna do. Because
What did you say to put into the pot besides the squash?
Pardon me? Just 1 clove of garlic.
That's the one.
And cover it?
And cover it because we're gonna let it boil. We're gonna let it boil and let it simmer. So now we're gonna have fun with the
Did we put any
onions.
liquid in with that?
Is there any liquid in there?
What?
Is there any liquid in with the squash?
Yeah, I put in about a half to 3/4 of an inch of water into it. So probably like at least half a cup.
That's good.
And then the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn on my pan for the skillet. Let that heat up a little bit. And then we're gonna cut the onion. And so we're gonna cut the end off, cut it in half, and then we're gonna slice it. So this one's not gonna be, it's not gonna be diced like we've done in the past. But you still
Yep.
wanna peel that onion down to that, to get rid of that one layer that you can't cut through. And the challenge is when your hands are wet, the onion skins stick to your fingers.
Yep.
So I want you to kind of leave that tail on because that helps you to actually hold on to the onion a little bit better. So you're gonna press down and use that knife and just make 1/4 inch slices. So we're not gonna dice them, we're just slicing. And if you start crying, it's because I'm happy to see you. Now, if you've got you want to put a tablespoon of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter or ghee into the pan. And then we're going to put the olive oil into the pan. So that's going to be another tablespoon, maybe even a tablespoon and a half. It depends on how big your pan is. And then I'm gonna make sure that the oil is kind of covering the whole pan before I throw the onions in. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut the other half of the onion. Pardon me?
Hang on.
Yes.
Are we putting all the onion in?
Yes, you're putting the whole onion in. And if you have small onions, you're doing 2 small onions. But I have a kind of a medium large one. So I'm just gonna,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're cutting both of the onions into this one, and it's just slices. And you get to a certain point where if you have nails, it helps because you can dig the nails into the onion to help get those last little couple of slices in. And then you're just going to move this around, make sure that the onions are all kind of separated. At this point, I'm going to use my fingers to separate them too, so that they're all actually touching. I'm going to try to get most of the onions touching the pan. Because it's not overly hot yet, then you can kind of use your fingers to move the onions. Whew. My onions are really strong. My eyes are tearing.
Yeah. That last one really got me.
I have to go outside to get, to clear my eyes. Whew. You can see my eyes are all tearing. Then we have the onions.
Turn on around so she can.
Just gonna check.
You joining us?
Butternut squash is still, it's only now, mine is only starting to boil. So So that's probably gonna take a good 10, 12 minutes.
Next to like where the refrigerator is on.
And we're just gonna kind of let these simmer a little bit. We're gonna let them brown just a teeny bit, the onions. But we're not gonna completely brown them because we're gonna stick we're gonna let we're gonna put the chicken in. I think my stove is crooked. No, the stove isn't crooked. My grate is crooked. That's what's crooked. That's better. So this is the fun part. You get to watch it's almost like watching grass grow. You just watch it and see what happens.
Or paint dry.
Right.
Grass smells better.
But the onions will probably taste better than grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my onions are now starting to simmer, so that's a good sign. I'm going to try to get the oil to go to the other side of the pan. You don't necessarily want it on high heat, otherwise they'll burn, and then we'll have a different problem. So we just want these to start, they should be starting to get a little bit translucent, which is what you want. My eyes are starting to recover, but it seems like while the onions before the onions wilt, they're still letting off that, whatever it is that's making my eyes tear. So now my onions are starting to sizzle. I have one that decided to try to escape.
Isn't like a sulfuric acid or something like that that's in them?
I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's definitely, it's interesting because I've been doing this, since March, and it's now October. So I've been doing it for 6 months. And this is really the first time that my eyes are tearing like this. So I don't know if it's just a special batch of onions. Because I did buy, maybe it's because they're organic onions, I don't know. But these are a little bit more potent.
And I had heard too, sometimes if they're a little bit older, they have more gas or something that they release. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, I've also heard that you can put the onions in the refrigerator and that lessens the effect. And my sister, right. I have 3 sisters. So when I say my sister, it could be one of 3. But my one sister has contact lenses, so it doesn't seem to be a problem for her. Another one actually bought, there's a thing called garlic goggles. So that you could put goggles on, and you could probably use swimming goggles too, so that it protects your eyes from whatever that is that makes your eyes tear. So you're starting to look a little bit translucent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna leave them there for another minute or 2. And then we're gonna go ahead and like move the onions out of the way and put the chicken in. And in the meantime, I'm gonna check my butternut squash. And it is boiling now, so that's a good sign. And that's another reason why I only have you put in like a ½ inch of water into it, because then it kind of steams it rather than just boiling.
Right.
And then we're going to mash those. So you can either use a masher, a potato masher, or I'm going to use the immersion blender. I'm gonna just move one of the onions. I'm just gonna see how my onions are doing. I want them a little bit browned, and they're only just now starting to brown. So if I leave that for another minute, then we can push it all aside and put the chicken in and allow that to cook. When we caramelize the onions, it brings out a really nice flavor. And we want to get as much flavor out of everything as we can.
True.
You know, maybe one of these, maybe next time I make the butternut squash, I'll do it where we chop it up a little bit more and then caramelize it in the pan and then put a little bit of like vegetable stock into it. And that could be another way of making the butternut squash. All right, my onions are starting to brown. How are yours?
Mine are browning.
All right, so now push them to the side, push it all to the side and make a big hole in the middle. And now you're going to put your wooden spoon down or whatever you're using and put all of the chicken with the marinade into the pan. That's a lot of chicken. I think I'm gonna save. I'm gonna save one chicken breast for another day. And then with this too, you might want to turn the heat up just a tiny bit. Whoops, I just turned it up a little bit too high. Whoops, that's even higher. So you want it now on like medium rather than medium low, but you want it on medium, but you don't want it high. And this way we're going to brown the chicken on one side and then the other. But you want to make sure that that chicken is all in the pan and touching the bottom of it. How's everyone's look?
Good.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna actually get a container so I can put my other remnants of the marinating chicken and put that into another bowl so I can use it for later this week. I'm gonna scrape out all the extra juices out of the bowl too and just pour that into the pan. And try to scrape off any extra, because on mine I've got a lot of the spices and it seems like they stuck to the pan. So you can use a spatula or one of those.
That was in the marinade.
Pardon me?
No, I was talking to Steve. He asked me about the paprika. I said it was in the marinade already.
Yeah, the paprika's already in. Well, it should have been in the marinade.
Yeah.
So now the chicken should be cooking and you should start to see the edges turning white.
Yep.
Yep.
And we're going to allow that to cook for a little bit longer because we want them to be basically cooking for 4 to 5 minutes on each side. Because the last thing we need is raw chicken, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Some things are better raw, but chicken's not one of them. And I'm actually gonna, since I like salt, I'm putting more salt on mine now. But it smells really good. I think this is the best part of cooking is that once it starts to cook, you can smell all the flavors blending together.
True.
Now we're watching paint dry.
Yeah, we're watching the edges of the chicken. So I'll show you what mine looks like. You see the white edges?
Yeah.
That's what you want, and actually I want that to come up just a little bit higher. or have that white edge be actually just thicker. And that's when I'll know that it's time to flip them over. 'Cause yeah, this is the downside of cooking sometimes. You just have to sit and watch. But if you don't watch it, you'll step away for a second and all of the juices will evaporate and everything's burning. So we don't want that either. I'm gonna check the butternut squash, and it's only halfway there.
Yeah.
So you can take a knife and just kind of poke the, let's bring the pot over, but you can poke it with the knife, and this is a sharp one, and you can see it's not really going in that far. So that's how
Yeah, but you can tell it's getting soft, but it's still hard. Like it's still halfway. It's only halfway.
It's only halfway. Yeah, if you want it to be faster, then you cut them into smaller cubes. All right, so one more minute, and then we're gonna flip it over. And I found our recipe for next week, or for the next class. And it's gonna be chicken espeche. So it's a Peruvian dish. It's from this great book called Recipes from the World by Mark Bittman. But it's called chicken escabeche. So it's going to be chicken with pepper, onions, carrots, celery, bell pepper, bay leaves, thyme, marjoram, and oregano. If you want chili, you can put that in there, garlic, red wine vinegar, and a cup of red wine. So that's going to be our next one. It's going to be everything in one dish. And I think I might even add cauliflower to it too. All right. So now can you see the edges of the chicken? There's a lot more white. So now it's time to flip it over. And I'm going to use a pair of tongs, but you don't have to use tongs. You can just use a spatula and flip each one over. And I'm going to take the ones that were on the edge and put them in the middle.
This has to go back. I just need the cloves. I think it goes in with the squash, probably.
So you should see that the chicken is browned on one side as well, which is what we were trying to accomplish. And then after you flip all the pieces of chicken, which there now, no, I have one more left. One more to flip. I'm actually I'm gonna push the onions back into the center as well. Or try to anyway. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave it on that semi-high heat and then allow the flavors to kind of blend together and let some of the juices kind of evaporate. So it'll take another 4 or 5 minutes on this side as well. You have to get down to the base. And try to make sure that the chicken is actually touching the pan. So I think another 2 or 3 minutes for the chicken as well as for the butternut squash. And then we're gonna put some butter into that butternut squash and sage. And then we're gonna drizzle some, maybe some honey or maple syrup on top after we mash it. I don't know about you guys, but I think this smells really good.
Yeah, stupid question. What are we doing with the peppers?
Oh, you got peppers in there too?
Yeah,
Well, the peppers I think we're supposed to go in with the chicken.
Oh, okay. I would still throw them in there now. I'm gonna throw that shallot in because
They won't be quite cooked, or you could fry them up in a separate pan to cook them a little faster.
now, yeah.
I forgot that there were peppers on the recipe.
I kind of figured they were supposed to go in, but I thought maybe they were going in with the squash, so.
No, they were supposed to go in with the chicken, but
Okay, well, they're in with the chicken now, so.
you know, as the chef over here, I'm doing a bad job of leading you through the recipe very, very efficiently. Like I skipped that part.
Well, I made one of our recipes for my girlfriend from like one of our ones from May, and she loved it.
Yeah.
I was like trying to get her to join our group.
One of these days, you know, I get a lot of people that are interested in joining, and somehow they'll either watch the recording or, you know, like I know Shannon and Shannon couldn't make it today because work. She's an accountant, and they've got a lot of deadlines coming up for the 15th, so she's just overworked. You know, and then last week Hal and Donna didn't come because they were busy. They had something else in their life. Oh wait, I can't hear you. Hold on a second. Let me.
There we go. Hey, it's me. When do we put the cloves in?
There's cloves?
Yeah, cloves. You put cloves on the recipe.
Oh, well, you could. No, cloves was actually from last week. This one doesn't have cloves, so. I mean, if you add cloves, I'm sure that'll add to it. It says
ground cloves.
Pardon me?
It says ground cloves.
Then let's add a little bit of ground cloves. Let's put half a teaspoon of ground cloves.
And with the chicken?
And with the chicken, yeah, just put it on top now. Thank you for reminding me that I omitted another ingredient. And what I'm going to do is actually mix it all together so that some of that clove blends in with everything else.
Hold on.
This is the fun part of cooking, you know, like if you were baking and you forgot an ingredient, you can't just randomly add it.
No, it wouldn't turn out.
It wouldn't turn out.
Or you have a really flat cake.
Pardon me?
You have a flat cake.
Right. You know, I've done that before. Or
your cookies are spread all over the pan.
I made these amazing hazelnut biscotti, and what I ended up doing is forgetting to put the sugar in.
Oh, no.
So my solution was I just covered that. I just dipped them in chocolate.
Oh shit!
All right.
Hold on.
So I'm going to turn this down a little bit so it simmers instead of boiling furiously. And then I'm going to, oh, it looks like the butternut squash is ready. So this is how mine is, where my knife goes easily in through the whole thing. So that's what I want. If you test it, that's what you want.
Yep.
So I'm going to turn that whatever, burner off, and I'm going to drain the butternut squash.
Yeah. She said drink.
Looks like tiny, so
Put it in butter.
pretty like 80 peppers in the open.
You're going to put a tablespoon of butter into the butternut squash.
She loves saying that. Butternut squash.
I'm going to put a little bit of salt into it. And this is where you're going to put that tablespoon of sage into it. So I'm going to eyeball it, which means that I'll probably put too much in, but I think I'd rather have a little bit more than a little bit less.
Right here.
So that's about a tablespoon, right?
That
What do you
looks
think?
good enough.
Yeah.
Looks good for my house.
Yes, it's good for me. So this is where you can either use an immersion blender or a potato masher to mash the.
What about the maple syrup?
You have to put that in at the end.
Okay.
Okay.
That's gonna be when it's all mashed. And I have to use my hand masher. It's pretty easy. But the immersion blender is definitely as well. So what I'm gonna do is actually smooth it out on in the pot. So it looks a little bit more appetizing. There, that looks a little bit better. And I'm gonna drizzle the maple syrup on top of that.
Oh, what?
Maple syrup.
Cinnamon we got. Is that
And I
going on the butternut squash?
Yeah. And then you put the maple syrup on. I think that'd be
Except
good.
we're not-
How's everybody's look?
Louisa,
Good, good.
Does it look about ready?
Okay, honey.
where's the honey?
Where's
Are you
the-
ready to try it?
Sure, why not?
Maybe a little thick.
So I am going to take a big spoonful of my butternut squash, and then some of the chicken with the caramelized onions. And because I'm not really a chef in a restaurant, my presentation is probably going to be half-assed.
We'll just smash it up.
How's everybody's look?
Just let it drizzle around with nothing.
How's everybody's look?
Good. Really good.
Sound good.
So, can we get a picture of everybody's?
On the plate, put it on the plate.
Oh, wait, I gotta put mine in the picture too.
Hold on.
Fingers put on the plate so I can show them our handiwork here. I tell you, we're gonna make a groove here.
Mhm.
I like the honey.
There you go.
All right, Hal and Donna, do you guys have yours to show too?
Yeah.
They want a sack, we're just getting the taters.
You just
Butternut
getting your one?
squash, sorry.
I just want to take a picture on the screen with everybody's finished
Keep it on there.
plate.
Just
It
about
smells
ready.
really good. I want to eat it already.
Oh, please. There we go. Here tonight, or not, here it comes. How's that look?
Excellent.
How's that look, guys?
That looks awesome.
We are in our zone.
Now, bon appetit. Now we'll try it and see how it actually tastes, because it looks really good. So I'm gonna cut a piece of chicken, grab some of the extra onions.
You want that one though, that plate?
Mm,
Yeah, no,
You want some more? Is this?
very good.
yeah, it's fine.
And tater?
I'm not, you know, I do happen to like everything that we've made so far.
You know, spare for you. Want to use this one?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good.
Okay.
There you go.
Butternut squash is really good with the sage.
Does it?
Definitely need to be liberal with the sage.
Can you go? You want a little more?
I just want more juice.
Is anybody gonna be feeding this to the dogs too?
James right by my leg.
They sound hungry.
Yay.
So our next class is, what is our next class? So our next class is October 27th. And our meal is gonna be chicken escabeche. It's a Caribbean meal. So here we went Peruvian, now we're going Caribbean.
Ah. Caribbean or
Right?
Caribbean?
Pardon?
Caribbean or Caribbean?
Ta-da.
I don't know, it depends. It's kind of like tomato and tomato. It's all the same, right?
Potatoes and
It's gonna be really good. So enjoy your meal.
Thanks,
And
Joanna.
if you, I'll have it posted up on YouTube, and then you can, you know, post below how it turned out. And hope you can join us in 2 weeks. Enjoy.
Thanks, Joanna. Have a good
Thank
one,
you,
guys.
Al. Thank you, Sue.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye.